Wake up in the morning with a smile on your face. Stretch your arms wide, getting ready to embrace another day to shine, another chance to play.
Welcome, everybody. We are the Foundation for Senior Services. We're the Senior Specialist Group South Bay chapter, most specifically. I'm joined here today by Seth and Susan, who I'll introduce shortly. But welcome and thank you for joining Hit by a Bus, 5 crucial steps.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I'm
To
keeping
take before
on your toes.
Whoa, I know it's good. It's a good pace for this headline. 5 crucial steps to take before catastrophe hits. So you're in for a wild ride. I'm excited about this one. So a little bit more about who we are, if you're not familiar, if you're new to the group or haven't been here for a little while. We are the Senior Specialist Group, which is part of the Foundation for Senior Services, helping seniors age well. And our mission is to provide seniors and their families with education, options, and resources so that they can choose quality care and support that will help preserve their independence. If you have any more questions about that, feel free to check out the website down below, foundationforseniorservices.org. We are all volunteers for this organization. So we are professionals in the space, but we're volunteering our time to help be part of the community, educate and provide resources. So a little bit more about our fabulous presenters today. We have Seth Beer of Beer Law, an estate planning law firm in the South Bay. And then we also have Susan Graven, who's a licensed professional fiduciary, also located in the South Bay. And if you have more questions about that, there's their contact info. You can reach out to them directly.
You want to
Without,
introduce yourself too, Shannon, since you're,
oh, yeah, thanks.
of
Thanks,
course.
Seth. I'm Shannon Duggan. I work for Bright Star Care. We are an in-home care agency based right here out of Torrance as well.
All righty.
Okay. So our agenda today, as promised in the title, we will be hopefully leaving you all with 5 crucial takeaways. We'll discuss each one in a bit more depth. The ICE, you'll learn about that, and the physical contact card, which are the first things after you get hit by the bus that will be needed. Then we'll move on to the Advanced Healthcare Directive, or you might see it as AHCD, or sometimes just AD, Advanced Directive, and the HIPAA authorization. And then the Durable Power of Attorney, which also can be the DPOA or POA for finance. And then number 4, selecting your agents and challenging conversations. And finally, reviewing and how essential it is to review and update your estate documents. So let's address the elephant in the room. What do you say, Seth? I think the elephant in the room is that this can be a difficult conversation. I don't think I knew the elephant moved.
Yes, we threw in some animation. Well, because we're talking about the elephant in the room, and in this case, we're talking about incapacity. What I do for a living is help people plan for the potential of being incapacitated and the eventuality of passing away. But what most people don't think about is incapacity, and how when most people do think about it, it's age related. We think of dementia, Alzheimer's, but anybody can be incapacitated at any time. And if you're unconscious, if we're in the South Bay, a lot of people fall off their bikes here. There's car accidents, a stroke, being hit by a bus. There's so many different ways you can be incapacitated at any age. So not planning for it. And most people don't. Most people, I think it's less than a quarter of all Americans, have any sort of planning in place. And one of the biggest reasons is they don't want to talk about this stuff. So that's why we want to just address this elephant in the room. Should also define incapacity. Really just means you no longer can make decisions for yourself. And that can be because of cognitive issues. It can be because you're unconscious. It can be physical, mental. So we just want to make sure everybody understands this is not just if age-related issues in dealing with incapacity.
No one likes to really think about, much less talk about bad things happening to themselves. or two others, but we're going to try to make it a little easier by introducing you to Uncle Zeke.
Yes.
And Uncle Zeke will be the one that the bad things are happening to, but you adore Uncle Zeke and you want to help him to be more prepared. So,
We can
and what, and
introduce you.
reiterating what Seth said, losing competency doesn't only happen to older people with dementia. Enter Uncle Zeke and his cousin Deke. Deke, the annoying cousin, is perfect and perfectly prepared. You know what this reminds me of, Seth, is the Highlights magazine. Do any of you guys remember Gallant, Goofus and Gallant? Yeah, so that's Deke and Zeke there.
Every doctor's office we were ever in growing up.
That's right. So let's jump right in.
All right. And, talking about this stuff can be challenging. We're, taking a slightly comical view or using some humor in it. I think it helps when I meet with clients that these are important issues, but the conversations don't have to be so solemn and dark. That's sort of why we came up with this next slide. You've got Deacon Zeke standing there and, well, they meet the bus, and not in a good way. So what happens right after that? We're going to compare Deacon Zeke, prepared and unprepared.
So in case you haven't heard of ICE, which stands for in case of emergency, I actually used to ride with a rescue squad, and we would check for ICE contacts, and that means on your phone, they will look under ICE to see who they should reach out to. So I have my husband, for example, as both my husband, but also separately as an ICE contact. So you can have that in your phone, but of course, lots of times our phones are locked or we don't have our phone with us. So we recommend that you do a wallet contact card with your emergency contacts on it, or possibly your healthcare agent would be good. I have mine, here's my cell phone. I have mine literally on the back of my phone. So if the bus hits me, they'll know who to contact. So Deke has all that figured out, and Zeke not so much.
And, is it important for these two to have that for themselves? No, it's because the first people that are going to come to that scene, it's going to be an ambulance. They need to know information. It's not just to you, you're John Doe. Deke and Zeke are John Doe when somebody first arrives. So the more information they have, the better they can help you. And that goes for when the EMT gets there, as well as when you first get into the hospital. Having information can make all the difference right from the start of a tragedy like this.
All right, so we get to the arrival to the hospital, and Deke's got it all figured out. The hospital staff have been able to locate his advanced healthcare directive and contacted the agents that are listed in that document. You want to touch on the HIPAA authorization, Seth?
Sure, quickly. So advanced healthcare directive, and we'll talk about it a little bit more in the next slide. That's the big piece. That's where you name your agent, someone to speak for you if you can't speak for yourself. The HIPAA authorization, we're finding now, if you want someone to be able to speak with your healthcare insurance company, they're going to need the HIPAA authorization. I was contacted by somebody who didn't have that for his mother, had moved her out of her home into assisted living, and her bills, her health insurance bill, is still going to the condo she didn't own anymore. All he was trying to do is change the address. They would not speak with him. We came very close to having to go to court to deal with it. Basically, I told them, if you want your money, change the address, and eventually they did. But it's another really important document that if you're going to get the healthcare directive done, you should have that too.
Yeah, a lot of these documents just can save a lot of time and stress for you and your loved ones, and money in making things run more smoothly. And in the hospital, an advocate who understands your wishes and is quickly by your side and makes sure that the physicians and the hospital staff know, the important medications you're on. And so many of those kinds of things will make all the difference for this process to move smoothly. Zeke, on the other hand, Seth, Zeke doesn't have any documents. What happens with that?
Before we jump in, I just want to go back, Susan, quickly. When talking about an advocate, just so people understand, this is what Susan does for a living as a fiduciary. She takes on the role of an agent. She can help with the financial world as well, but this is something. So when she's speaking about her experiences and being an advocate for somebody, she does this all the time. So her, firsthand knowledge of what she can do and how, like it says, quickly she can make a difference, or any agent can step in and make a difference in your care and what's going to happen to you if you can't speak for yourself, can really make all the difference in the world. I don't know if you want to discuss anything, Susan, when
Yeah,
you first get to the
because
hospital.
not many people really know the term licensed professional fiduciary. There's only about 1,000 of us in the state of California that are active licensed fiduciaries, and we're that option that if you go into your attorney to update your court documents, your estate documents, to avoid court, your estate documents, and you either don't want your family to be it, or you don't have family, or you don't want to burden them with it, or you don't want them to fight, then the attorney hopefully has heard of us and can say, look up licensed professional fiduciary under the Professional Fiduciary Board website and interview at least 3. It's a very, can be a very personal relationship you want to build, find the right one. So that's what licensed professional fiduciary is. A lot of people hear fiduciary and they just assume something financial because of all the ads on TV. But fiduciary just means you're required by law to do what's in the best interest of your client. Okay, on to Zeke. No documents.
So Zeke, he's John Doe in the hospital. I don't know if I get emails. I'm not exactly sure which organization I'm getting them from, but I think even the LA Times, once a week, they'll send out notification. Do you know this person? And it's a picture of somebody in their hospital bed, after an accident. They have no information. They're literally reaching out to the general public to find it. You can really help yourself. And I think all this sort of planning helps your loved ones more than anything else. These are gifts to the people who care about you to make sure you have these things done. If you do not have them in an emergency, there are laws that allow medical staff to get you as stable as possible. So they're going to do what they can without having to speak to somebody. But the moment it's not exigent circumstances that life or death decision has to be made, if there's no document, hospitals can, through probate law, choose someone in your family. It can be a spouse, an adult child, a parent. But is that the person you want to choose to do it? And as we'll talk about later, having the conversations about what's important to you in these sorts of situations, if you don't have that, and somebody now has to step in and make these decisions for you, sort of a burden. You've placed this responsibility on somebody who doesn't know what is important to you. Where these cases can go and is court. Tell a quick story. I'll try to make it quick. I was a court-appointed attorney, so I was on 2 panels of attorneys in LA's mental health court and probate court. So I'd get appointed to represent families, usually of somebody who needed help. And in this one case, I was appointed to represent the family of a man who was dealing with a physical condition. They couldn't catch it in time, but he was 69. He was a veteran, and he was in a physical condition where he was unable to communicate, unable to really control his body at all, but it was in excruciating pain. And medical staff, the ethics committee, he was at the West LA VA, and his family, 7 brothers and sisters back in Alabama, came together and made a really difficult decision that the only thing they could do for Tommy, it's his name, was end his suffering. That was get him into palliative care where they could give him enough medicine, which was morphine, to end his pain. But this was also going to hasten his death. So really important case. I never had any case is more important than these. To get it on the docket as quickly as possible, I had to go to Tommy. He had an attorney, a public defender who never met him, appointed for him. I had to present the case to her. I did. 2 days later, we get this case in front of a judge. Present my case to the judge. Public defender stands up and says, Your Honor, I need a 2-week continuance. Didn't have time to review anything. I explained she did. We talked about it, but she wouldn't budge. And just to give you an idea, this is mental health court, which is part of probate. Between it was 9 a.m. and noon, we heard 80 to 100 cases. That's how much time you get in court. And we would have lunch from 12 to 1:30. At 1:30, we'd come back for about a half hour of rehearing pieces, and then we had trials. So I asked, can the public defender take a quick 10 minutes over lunch and review everything? Public defender said, no, gavel down, see in 2 weeks. So this man and his family suffered for 2 weeks for no reason, as you'll find out in a few minutes. 2 weeks, we go back in. Public defender stands up this time and asks for a 2-week continuance so she can go talk to her client. I explained again, he's non-communicative. There was a point where he would point to letters on a board. We used why and no, yes and no, but that was gone. Can't communicate, and I don't want to be graphic. Nobody should have to see somebody suffering like this person. I spent time with Tommy in his room, thought I was doing the public defender a favor not having to do that. Anyway, she refuses. I have the right to see my client. The judge said she did, but the judge gave her just 1 week this time. And before the judge said just 1 week. And before I realized what I was saying, I said, there's nothing just about this. And I got that. Mr. Beer, which is when your parents would do first, middle, last name, you just be quiet or pay a fine. So I shut up. But another week went by. I was in constant contact. The hospital called me all the time, finding out where we were, what can we do. I knew for a fact after that week that no one from the public defender's office ever went to see Tommy. So I know I'm in for a fight. I want that court order that's going to authorize. The family sent a niece out. She sat with me at the table to be the agent if we can get the authorization from the judge. We go back to court. New public defender walks in. She tells the judge, we went and spoke with Tommy. No, you didn't. They mentioned something about a botched surgery. No such thing happened, but we submit on Mr. Beer's petition, which means the stuff I gave them 3 weeks ago, totally fine now. No problems. We're good. I wanted to fight to, show the judge everything that was lies, but I let it go. The most important thing was get the court order. Since they submitted, that's over. Judge signed the document, gave it to the clerk. I scanned it in, emailed it immediately to the VA. It was an hour or two. Tommy was moved to palliative care, and 2 days later, he passed away. His family were still in contact, still thanks me, even though I did nothing. The expert there to help them. But if Tommy had a healthcare directive, none of this happens. The family would have been in control the whole time. So if it is, to me, of all the documents I do, it's the most important. It is everybody over the age of 18 should have an advanced healthcare directive. There are free versions all over. Every hospital has their own. It's a California hospital version. In the probate code, there is a version. So you can get the California statutory version. If anybody needs help finding those, feel free to get in touch with us. We can help you do that. And that's setting up conservatorships. You can see here. And that's giving up control of being able to make decisions. You're putting a judge. That's who chooses your conservator, not your family. So that's the difference here, Deacon Zeke. It makes a huge difference. Anything to add to that, Susan? Sorry.
That sounds so painful, Seth. Wow. Is that why you moved over to estate planning?
I keep people out of court now, but that's what I learned in the 7 years there is you give up control when you go to court. And if you can stay out of it, you should do everything you can to do so. And this is one version of the healthcare directive. And to me, what you're filling out here, the most important part are picking your agents, the people who you want to advocate.
Hey, Seth, would you cover your ears for about 5 seconds? Seriously, cover your ears.
Go ahead. No, I'm not going to do it.
This form, everybody, does not need an attorney. It just needs to be done. And I want to say everybody over age 18 should have this. So a lot of people don't realize, because nobody wants to think about it happening to them or their loved ones. But anybody you know who has a grandchild over age 18, get them to fill this out. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You can make changes later. But you want to get it good enough and get it to your providers so that you have something in place. But just
Susan,
get it done. A lot of people will get it half done and then it'll sit there for months and be forgotten about.
there's one quick question from the audience that's actually related to probably this and the HIPAA authorization form. They're wondering where to get these forms.
So Seth,
Healthcare directive, if
go ahead.
you have a primary care physician, if you're part of a hospital group, if you Cedars or UCLA, they all have them. And you can complete these. You need 2 witnesses or get it notarized. And the 2 witnesses can't be family. There's a few rules like that. All these, anytime you have one of these documents, it has really good instructions on it. You don't, like Susan said, you don't need a lawyer to do this. I think we can help with some parts of it, but you certainly can fill this out, choose your people, and get it executed correctly. The HIPAA
Usually your
authorization,
healthcare provider should be able to point you in the right direction. But there are just ones online too. I ended up pulling one down from 5 Wishes. It wasn't perfect, but it'll do the job.
5 wishes. For the HIPAA authorization, most hospitals, healthcare providers have them. They're also online. So you should be able to find HIPAA authorizations just as easily as the healthcare directive.
Thank you. And just a reminder for anyone in the audience, if you do have questions, you can put them in the chat and we'll be sure to either address them during the presentation or at the end, whatever makes more sense for the flow of it. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, we can also take just questions said out loud once we're at the Q&A as well.
Yes.
Okay.
So they get them stabilized, and
Now,
talk about the hospital stay.
well, this is where I have a lot of experience when that hospital stay drags on. Well, hopefully for Deke, it won't drag on as long because he pretty quickly had somebody in there advocating for him. I guess just a quick story, because I feel like that story you told, Seth, really kind of hammers in the importance of this, but we'll call him Tim. My client, Tim, was I was walking the dog with him the day before, but and he wanted to be in his home, and he was in his home. So we had health care for him. We had caregivers in the home for him. And they called and said he will not stand up off the couch, even to go to the bathroom. So we had to call an ambulance. He was in the hospital for 12 days before they figured out it was extreme gout. And that's why this poor man, who, yes, he had dementia, so he wasn't able to tell us why he didn't want to stand, but he was in extreme pain when he was standing. They finally figured that out. After 2 weeks in the hospital, he hadn't stood or walked. They're like, okay, we're going to discharge him. Once again, that takes an advocate to be there and say, wait. You've got to get, he needs more help to be able to stand and walk before you can just send him home. So we were able to keep him there for a couple more days, but still wasn't standing up and walking. So I did all the research to find him transitional care. These are all the kinds of, a lot of times I think of my role as the resource coordinator, knowing who to call and who to bring in. I don't have the expertise in the, financial management or how to, or even the transitional care, but I know people who do. And I got him into a transitional care. And while he was there, I had his carpet replaced and a hospital bed delivered to his house. And I got physical therapy in every day to try to get him up and standing. Another 2 weeks there and he wasn't walking. So we had to then make the decision that he wasn't going to be able to go home in this case. And he, all the research of what senior living community memory care unit would be best for him kind of thing. So those are all of the kinds of things that might happen after being hit by the bus. But in this case, Zeke does get better. So he is going to be able to get home, but it's a much more complicated process for Zeke without the healthcare documents like we talked about. And now we'll jump into that durable power of attorney, which is more on the finance side. Do you want to either talk about that or what happens for Zeke, Seth?
Well, for Zeke, I'll talk about the power of attorney in a second, but if Zeke doesn't have one, Zeke has no planning, which means if somebody wants to help him with his resources, they're going to have to get a conservatorship. They're going to have to go to court and have somebody appointed to be his conservator to make decisions for how they're going to help him with his own money. And I will always say, if you can stay out of court, you should. You should do everything in your power to keep control and have your family or loved ones be in control and not have to go in front of a judge and argue for everything you want with your family. Zeke's going to have to do that. He is definitely going to need a conservatorship. There's two kinds. There's over the estate and over the person, and he was going to need both in this case. And that does not happen quickly. For a durable power of attorney, you've probably heard of power of attorney. The word durable on the front of that means it lasts through incapacity. So you definitely want it to be a durable version. It's so someone can step in and manage your finances, or here, Deeks, not Zeke's, because he's not prepared. Someone can step in and get into Deeks' bank accounts, pay his bills, which is Susan can speak to that. You are not able to handle things like that. You know, they pile up, and you know it costs a lot more to have to go back and get things reset up, electricity, all those sorts of different payments that if someone's not in charge, you're in trouble. So this is a really important, it's very powerful. It says document. And one important thing people should understand about it, there's two versions. There's one where you sign it and you immediately give over the power of attorney. You can share it with somebody. You don't have to give it away, but you give them the right to manage all of your finances. There's also one that's springing, which springs into effect at an event, which is typically when someone's incapacitated. So there's two ways of having it go into effect. The other thing I think it's really important to point out is if you have this and you regain your capacity, this can go away. It's not, you know, for the rest of your life, you've given someone control over your finances. That is not the case. So,
and I luckily not had to deal with this, but I have colleagues that have had that springing power of attorney. Can you talk a minute about how that can delay
yes.
The process?
So obviously, if you have something you sign, and when you sign it, it's immediately in effect, you don't have to wait for anything. That person's been authorized. The springing, and it depends on how the power of attorney was drafted, but the statutory version, and there is a statutory version, you can go right now online, California statutory durable power of attorney, and use that if you want. I think there's a lot to be said for having, it's not that an attorney drafts one. Well, and I'll just say this, the statutory version's 3 pages. Mine's almost 28 and gets longer every week because we run into issues with financial institutions. But
things change.
Yes, things do change.
Laws and how their laws are interpreted. Yeah.
But you can, just like the other documents, find this online, sign it, and this needs to be notarized, and it will go into effect. But California laws for trust, anything that's using the law, and you can change it, requires letters from 2 physicians to be able to say somebody's incapacitated. The treating physician, that's always, you'll get that immediately. It's the second one that can take not just days, it could take 2 weeks and an expense to get it done. You're paying that doctor to write that letter. No one's going to look or give you the authority to do anything without that letter attached or those letters. So having it immediate can be helpful, but you better trust the person you are giving immediate powers to, because they really can access all of your accounts and do everything with that document.
And you really need some kind of family member advocate there to push on the doctors to get those letters done, because it can take a while. And durable power of attorney, you say they have immediate like access to everything, but usually it works to have an agreement of, you're not in charge until I need you to be, kind of thing. Like I have plenty of clients that I'm the durable power of attorney, but I haven't done that for those jobs for them yet. So,
Yes,
okay,
but it is important. You could.
right.
So
That's
when
the
we have
important
clients
thing.
who are like, if something happens to me, I want my kids to be able to step in and manage everything. If they want to sign it immediately, and there are versions, we call it a hybrid. For spouses, typically it'll be an immediate power granted, but for anybody else to step in, we always want to have backups. Rules of three, we call it. Always have backups to your initial person. They can't step in until, so it's springing for everybody else, but a spouse or one particular person can be an immediate power.
All right, so good news. Deke gets to go home. He's been more in control of his journey. Hopefully he and his family have had more peace of mind. But as we're about to cover, there is still some more work to do now that he's getting healthy again, and he can see that, wow, these kind of catastrophes can happen to anyone. He wants to spend some time reviewing, making sure he's picked the right agents, updating, and communicating.
We'll talk a little
So
bit more about that in a couple
we'll talk a
slides.
lot more about that, but do you want to talk about the Zeke side of things, or have we already beaten that horse, that
Yeah,
court?
I think we have. I mean,
Yeah.
it's court. And as I said, the moment you file these documents, and it costs over $1,000 to file for a conservatorship. Um, that hand you see in the slide, that's a judge. You are a pawn now in that judge's hand because they're going to make your decisions. Pick your conservator. And anytime people want to use your money and do things, they're going back into court to ask for permission. So my 7 years in probate and mental health court taught me one thing is stay out of court if you can. It's my last word of advice on that.
All right, so you can go to the next slide. And I was going to do a quick review of our 5 crucial items. So you guys have learned about the in case of emergency, the ICE contact, and or the physical contact card that I recommend having in your wallet and or taped right to your phone. Totally was going to bring up the power of 3 here, 3 emergency contacts, 3 successors on each of your documents. Or at least if you don't have that, if you have 1 or 2 really trusted successors, then you can have your document give them the power to find the next person. Because a lot of times, 5, 10 years has gone by since you've done these documents before possibly you need them, and things change. Maybe that sister that's 2 years younger than you isn't the perfect one anymore to take care of this because she's also in her 80s or whatever, lots happens over any period of time. So having that power of 3 successors, or having it in your documents that one of those people can easily assign the next one, that will help you avoid court. So we've got the ICE and physical contact card. The advanced healthcare directive was number 2, and HIPAA authorization. The durable power of attorney for your finances. And then 4 and 5 are what we're going to talk about now, which is the challenging conversations and picking the right agents and reviewing and updating your estate documents. So we've mentioned it a couple times, but we want to really emphasize the importance of thinking through and picking your agents, the people that are going to be there by your bedside and or making financial decisions for you. They can be the same person, they can be different people. You pick what is best for you. And shall I move into having conversations with that, or you have anything you want to add there?
Quick little story. So I had clients who, one of our first meetings, when we first started discussing picking your agents, both people in the couple said, oh, well, they have a son and daughter. It's our daughter. She's in medical school, so she'll know everything. And what we usually do is go over all their different options, give people a few weeks to talk with themselves and whoever they might choose. You don't want to spring this on somebody with the document. You don't want to end up incapacitated. and somebody gets a call, you're the agent, time to do your work. Hopefully you're going to at least ask them if they're okay with it. But they went home, talked about it, and 2 weeks later when they came back in, the wife, she said, you were right. I didn't really think about it, but I talked with her. She's my baby and she will never pull the plug on me. So just because they have the knowledge, you don't have to have specific knowledge, specialized knowledge. Well, the convo part we're about to talk to, that's the knowledge somebody really needs to be able to step in and help you. They don't need to be in the medical world. Just another thing to think about. But having these conversations, Susan and I've said it a few times today, no one likes talking about any of this stuff. But these conversations, sitting down with the people you're going to choose for your agents and making sure they understand what's important to you, what quality of life means to you, then you're not burdening them with this. They're stepping in, they understand what's important to you and can make decisions based on what you told them, not what they think you might want.
So there's a lot of great guides out there and books for fun ways to sit down and have these conversations with the agents that you've picked, so that they're aware of where you stand on all these different decisions that might be need to be made. I know Five Wishes walks you through it in a nice logical way. The Conversation Project, Seth, you were telling me about, and I looked into it, and I really like that as well.
They have great guides for that and picking your agents. And
Yes.
a quick story time. They help me. I'm my parents' agent. I'm very lucky. My parents, 85 and 83, still very healthy. They live in New Jersey. So I flew back there one day, one of our trips, to find out what was important to them. Sat my parents down. 2 minutes into the conversation, my dad said, pull the plug. My mom said, pull the plug. Let's go eat lunch. And that was it. I failed miserably trying to figure out what happens. And I'm kind of the pro here. I should know what I'm doing. But what I learned, it was from the Conversation Project guide, Conversation Starter Guide is what it's called. You can't just force people to have these conversations. There's different ways of bringing it up. Having both of them in the same conversation might not have been the best. So over the next few months, I had different conversations and found out from my mom, she loves reading. She reads nonstop. She's always learning, takes online classes every day. My wife and I get to share one with her Monday nights. We do them together. But she told me, if I'm bedridden, but I recognize you, your brother, your dad, I can do all these things, learning and reading, I'm good. But the moment that stops, that's when you got to let me go. And, it still gets me kind of choked up thinking about it. We don't like doing it, but now I know how I can help her when she needs it, if she ever needs it. And that conversation I had, or what I learned with my mom, was repeated with my dad and with my brother. So we're all on the same page, because the last thing you want is a family start fighting over this, because guess where that goes if no one can make a decision?
Let me guess. Court.
My least favorite place. So it really is important. It's challenging. It really is. For most people, it's hard to talk about these things, but they'll make all the difference in the world, not for your care alone, but you're taking care of your family by doing all these things, by having a plan in place. That's all I got.
This was all about this scenario of being hit by the bus, to try to bring it to people's attention that this can happen to anybody at any time, and a few things that you can do to make that difficult journey a little less difficult. The other reminder at the end of this, other than the slide saying pick your agents and have these difficult conversations, and then put it on your calendar to review it every few years and make sure it's still what you're thinking in regards to your wishes, in regards to are they the right agents, all of that. So review, and have 3 levels of successors. Anything else? Are we ready for questions, Seth?
I think so.
All right, great. Thank you so much, you guys. That was really helpful. I don't think I see any questions right now in the chat outstanding, but if you do have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask. We're about 15 people, so I don't think it'll get too chaotic.
Yeah.
But if it does, I'll rein you back in.
I have the mute all button if I have to do
That's powerful.
Seth,
Um,
this is Kevin here. I'm sorry, I'm a guest.
Hi,
Can you
Kevin.
hi, can you explain a pour over will and how it could relate to something like this?
Yes. So pour over will is used in conjunction with a trust. If something is left out of a trust, I need to explain that. When you use a trust as your main planning tool, you have to retitle your assets. It's called funding, and have them in the name of the trust, not your own name. If something's left out, typically the biggest asset, at least in Southern California, is somebody's house. If you refinance a house, if it's in the name of the trust, mortgage company takes it out because they have to attach the loan to you personally. Supposed to put it back in the trust, but rarely do they do that, and they aren't going to tell you they didn't do it either. So what happens is somebody who has a trust passes away, and their biggest asset is not in the trust, which typically means it has to go through probate. It's expensive. I don't say a lot of nice things about court. So a pour over will, usually you need some assignment documents just to make sure. If you can prove to a judge that the person who passed away, it was their intent to have this asset in their trust, the will can show that intent. So the pour over will, it's literally pouring something back into the trust, even though it was left out when someone died. So that's what it's used for in our state. They don't have the similar license in New York as well. Don't have the same process to be able to do that in New York. So it is something pretty unique to California that allows you to use that. But if you do have a trust, you should have this pour over will with it.
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Kevin.
Okay, we have a question from Nancy in the chat. She says, I heard of people purchasing a package through Costco and completing their own trust and will. What are your thoughts on those generic packages? Any pros and cons of using those?
Oh, Nancy, I don't have enough time for that.
Go ahead. I mean, I guess I could start by saying that I have come across that before, and there's almost always issues with them being out of date, like not up with the current laws, and not addressing your needs more specifically. But Seth, I'm sure you can go in more detail.
Yeah, probably way too much detail, but I didn't know Costco had them. Big fan of Costco. If you get a plan like this and execute it correctly, the trust has to be notarized. Wills in our state are witnessed. So you have to make sure you follow. You're going to have a legally binding document, but is it going to do really what you want it to do? It's a template. So somebody's kind of made all the decisions for you, just filling in names in different places. I can't say they won't work because legally they are legally binding documents, but most of them, and length isn't the greatest measure of everything here, but they're 5 to 20 pages. The ones I draft are somewhere between 80 and 100 because if there's something I can think of that could go wrong, I'm putting it in there. There's just so many different things that most people will never consider that can completely derail your plan. And if something doesn't work in the trust, it goes to court. And the reason you're doing a trust is to stay out of it. So I do understand there are cost restraints. I think working with an attorney, it's not just helping you get everything set up, but hopefully the person you're working with is going to stand behind the document if it needs any fighting for it to be accepted or dealt with the correct way. You have that person there too. But sometimes, it is the only way to have something. Is probably, I probably shouldn't say is better than nothing. It could get you in more trouble. One thing I will say, you're not going to get help funding or retitling assets if you do it online or through one of these sort of generic packages. So the two biggest reasons trusts fail are they're not funded. The retitling doesn't happen with every asset. Needs to be planned for well in the plan. That's one biggest. And the second is because something wasn't contemplated. Usually if the typical husband, wife, and two kids, they're leaving everything to the two kids, but what happens if one of them's not there when the parents pass away? Is there a plan for their kids to inherit? Does it go in trust instead of just outright? If it goes in trust, you can actually protect their inheritance. There's a lot of different moving parts.
All the complexities with if somebody gets remarried and then they have kids in the second marriage, and
blended families need very specific things in their trust to protect things like that.
But even without a lot of those complexities, I still stand by if the advanced healthcare directive can be done without an attorney, but I highly recommend the others, the power of attorney for finance, durable power of attorney, and the if you're going to do a trust and you want it's not a lot of money compared to the cost of potentially ending up in court later. So that's my recommendation.
Just on that cost aspect of what probate, if you have to go through probate, in this probate code, there is a set percentage of the estate that goes to the attorney for the estate and personal representative. And this is the only one I have memorized, but $1 million estate. So, and that's fair market value of date of death. So if you have a mortgage, they don't care. It's the fair market value of a home and everything else you own. On $1 million estate, the personal representative and attorney are each entitled to a minimum on a smooth, uncontested probate of $23,000. So it's $46,000. That doesn't include accounting fees, filing fees, all these other thousands and thousands of dollars. Somebody had asked, Michelle in the chat asked, she said that one of the things that prevents people from doing the planning is cost. So can I give an average or range of what to expect? Can I? I think online you can probably do things for a few $100s. I think there are attorneys. I know there's some groups that'll charge $1,200, $1,500. And I know there are some that charge, we had someone who came to us after this, $15,000. And it depends on your estate. There are complexities. The size of the estate really matters if you're doing planning for estate taxes and things like that. So what I would say is if you're going to do your due diligence and talk to the people you might work with and find out how in depth they're going to work with you.
And are they going to charge for every
phone call, email?
change?
Yeah, is it hourly? To me, estate planning is very different than most types of legal work. There's no adversary, so there doesn't need to be hourly billing. We do that because we don't know what's happening all the time. We have to be able to charge if things pop up. In estate planning, that doesn't happen. We have an idea of what's involved. I build into my packages the time I expect. What we do, it's not just getting everything set up. We're going to make sure you fund your trust. We give you a checklist and stay on you to make sure you do everything. We put real property in the trust. We include meetings with your successor trustees or agents as part of that package because they're not going to know what to do if something happens to you. It's also a really traumatic time. So I want to be able to be there for them and help them understand the documents, what's required of them, and hold their hands through these processes. So there are a lot of it. I worked for another attorney who charged less than what I charge now. But if you wanted inheritance protection trusts, things that are going to help your children or whoever your beneficiaries are, if they're in a divorce, not have to cough up half their inheritance, different pieces like that, those were a certain amount extra. It was sort of, you got to the end of the meeting and it was like getting that undercoat on your car when you buy a new car. Just, this should all be very transparent. Somebody should give you an exact quote, at least after meeting with them, to understand, once they understand your situation, let you know what's included in the package, what the cost is. how much time it should take, all those sorts of things. So yeah, the price range is pretty wide, depending on the level of service you're going to get, I think. Sorry, it wasn't a very great answer. It's lawyer's favorite answer to any question is it depends.
Makes
Can
sense.
I
I
ask
think
another
that's,
question?
oh, go ahead, Nancy.
What about when there's a concern about cognition? So if one spouse is oriented, but the other one maybe has mild cognitive impairment or dementia, could the spouse that's cognitively intact create the trust or will and documents for themselves?
If they're married, there are community property issues.
Yeah.
So only with their separate property could they set
Oh,
something up
okay.
themselves. But it depends on, I've had people contact me and say, my spouse was diagnosed dementia. What can we do? Well, I need to sit down with that person and figure out, just because you have a diagnosis, it depends on where you are on that spectrum of how we can help people. There are different levels of competency or capacity that can make things easier, harder. For trusts and wills, are called testamentary documents. It's a much lower level of capacity than needed for a contract. And California, healthcare directives, powers of attorney are considered contracts. So they have a higher level required of capacity.
But even so, I've had families of clients that think just because mom's not sure what day of the week it is anymore, that she's not going to be able to put together a durable power of attorney. And that's as I understand it, so that's the attorney's decision to, and I've been not like in those meetings, but I think, well, yeah, I have. And they've been asked just like, do you own a house? Do you know where that house is? Like if they are with it enough. So bottom line is don't assume that just because they maybe have a diagnosis of dementia or something like that, oh no, they can't do these estate documents. Talk to an attorney and get some good advice on that. And yeah.
Because we have great advice from the state, and the Bar Association lets us know what we can do and can't. So, if I know someone is better in the day or at night, I can go meet with them when we know that. And if they have the ability another day to recognize what we did the day before, we're good. So a lot can be done. Like what Susan was saying, that the capacity for testamentary, for wills and trusts is, do they know who they are, what they own, and who they want to give it to? That's it.
Did that help, Nancy? That answer your question?
Yes, that helps.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you,
Shannon, I
guys.
recommend we show them what else is coming up and go through those slides,
Yeah.
but we can stay on and answer more questions if they
I
come
just
up.
want to, I just want to be conscious of time, everyone. We're about 10 minutes over. So, yeah, we'll just run through the last couple slides and that sounds good, Susan.
No, we're not. I think we have an hour. Anyway,
What? I thought we were till 10:45. Oh,
45 minutes for presentation and then time for this.
Yes.
news to me. We're running right on time then. We have
Right
5
on
minutes
time.
left.
I wouldn't do that.
Perfect. Okay.
Remember, I charge
Carry on.
hourly. I can't. I don't.
Don't go
I
1
only
minute
do
over.
flat fees. Sorry.
Keep it rolling. Okay, well, in that case, we also have the opportunity to become a call companion if you're interested in that. Our social call companion program connects seniors to call companions to help combat isolation and loneliness. So if you want more information about that, you can email info@thefss.org if you're a senior interested in calls, or if you want to volunteer to become a companion.
These are all like programs that the Senior Services Group or Foundation for Senior Services does. And Shannon and Seth and I are volunteers, all of the members. We're all volunteers for this with different expertises. And it's a really great organization. We'd like all of you to get more involved if you can, maybe be a call companion for someone.
We do appreciate you being here today, too. This has been a great turnout. And we do have more things coming up.
We do.
Go
So
halfway down to hit by a bus. And
there you go.
what's coming in the future is just the second half, I think.
Yeah, it looks like we also have, I think that's today. Yeah. If
It is.
you want to keep it rolling, we have Aging Well While Aging Solo, a guided roadmap today in Torrance. These are usually at senior centers, or it looks like we have a few more virtual ones coming up. So if you want more information on that, you can scan that barcode in the upper right to get it on your phone, or you can always look on the foundation website. Here's the events coming up. And if you have any questions on that, feel free to reach out to us or the Foundation for Senior Services and get registered. Oh,
About it.
there you go. And you can also share your feedback, how you felt
That
about the
thumbs up
presentation.
feedback comes to me. The thumbs down feedback goes to Seth.
I can take it. Here's all of our contact information, including Shannon's, because it wasn't in there before.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, Seth. So yeah, I'll let you guys close it out. If you have any last thoughts or anything that you want to say, but thank you so much for this great presentation. We really appreciate it, both of your time and expertise. I had a lot of fun, more fun than I thought I would, given the subject matter. So thank you both so much. And
Thank you.
any closing thoughts, go for it.
Thank you, Shannon, and all of you for coming. Trusts were not purposely were not covered on this because we were going under the hit by a bus scenario, and the key crucial steps in that scenario have to do with the advanced healthcare directive and the durable power of attorney. But the full estate plan can include the will, the HIPAA, the advanced healthcare directive, the durable power of attorney, and trusts, and all of those things. We could do a whole nother seminar just on the many hours seminar on just the trusts. But hopefully you all got the idea you want to be Deke, not Zeke.
Yeah, that's when I do lots of seminars on the full estate plan, but I say it nonstop in there, and I'll say it, this advanced healthcare directive to me is the most important document. Everybody over the age 18, I think we've all said it, should have it. If my contact info is there, if you want help finding it or filling it out, get in touch. We have 4 or 5 different versions on our website that you can use, but if you don't want to end up like Zeke or Tommy from my story, get the document done. It's really that simple to get it done. Yeah, thank you.
Look at that,
everybody.
10:59. Thank you, everybody.
You enjoy the rest of your day. Hopefully you'll have some sun. Might be going away for a while.
No.
All right, thank you so much. Thanks again, everyone. Contact info is there if you want to reach out to anyone specifically.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.